Welcome to our podcast, everybody, True Business Stories. I'm Bill Winter and my colleague Mark Edmonds, and today we have another fascinating story to tell, a husband and wife team, or a wife and husband team, whichever way you want to put it. I'm not sure who's the boss. It is an interesting story, and I look forward to what we learned today.
So Tania and Brad Goss, I've known you guys for 6-7 years, maybe a little bit longer, we were saying. And we were chatting about sitting in a cafe in Highton, but we'll come to that in a little bit later. So let's start with you, Tania. Where did you start life? Where did you go to primary school, or where were you born?
I was born here in Geelong, and after a couple of years, my parents decided to have a tree change and we moved to Queensland. I did my primary school years in Queensland and came back ready to start high school, so straight into Belmont High, and really haven't left the Highton area ever since.
And Brad, where did you begin life?
Born and bred in Geelong. Haven't moved, haven't gone anywhere. Basically lived my life in Hamlin Heights, primary school, secondary school. Went straight to uni, did the usual father-son thing, wanted to do what my dad did, engineering. Quickly found that I hated sitting in classrooms and being bored senseless. Moved to Kalgoorlie, did some mining work, homesick. Moved back over here, did some work in the Stawell gold mine. Found that my parents separated, wanted to move home. Did some sort of work with some mates in the building industry. Thought, this was okay. Did an apprenticeship. But then my passion's always been cars. My dad and my uncle have been at Ford for 45 plus years. I've always been around cars, and then this business sort of fell into our lap, being through around car club members and so forth. So, and here we are, still going strong.
Cool. Well, Brad, you're one of the fortunate ones who are following your passion.
Very much
and
so.
That's what it's all about. I feel that those, and we know from past experience that those who follow the passion, got a sense of purpose, turn out, and it's not always about being the biggest, it's about being the best and having a really good balance in life. That's the other issue. And we'll ask you some questions about that shortly. So, Tania, what was your first job?
I actually moved straight into the banking industry. I was ready to go to university and I had a car accident and I was hit by a car. Had to defer uni, and I was driving my parents nuts after my rehabilitation. So my dad saw a job in the paper for the bank. So I joined Westpac and I decided to make a career of it. So I actually worked my way right through. So I had a lot of customer service and management experience, and sort of finished at regional management level before the bank sort of separated and looked at moving a lot of its management into Melbourne area. So I didn't want to travel. I stayed back in Geelong. So that was my first point. And
where did you move to from the bank?
I had a couple of years at home while raising children, and then after that I had an opportunity to start working in hospice with Anamkara House, actually, is where I first started. So I went back into a part-time role, juggling children and work. And from there I moved to Tuckers, worked with Tuckers for a few years. And then we had our fourth child, so I had a bit of time off again. And at that point was where I saw Brad struggling after working a full day in the business, detailing, to then come home and answer telephone calls, do inquiries and the like. And so I said to him, I reckon I could take the phone tomorrow. And he said, I'm not too sure. We might have to do a few role plays. And it was at that point I said, I don't think I need any role plays with customer service. If I can't figure it out, we'll wing it. and that's how it ended up being the two of us in business together.
Fantastic. And so the lead question that I've missed is, where did you meet?
We met through some mutual friends, and we knew each other for quite some time first. And it was at that point then that we sort of had a bit of a spark and an interest together, and we decided to make a go of it. It was a big juggle at the time because it was a second marriage. So for Brad to come on board and take on children and and running households and running businesses all at once. It was a huge commitment, and it's worked. It's juggled itself right out to the point that we're still together.
And you're with each other 7 days a week, 24 hours a day when you're running your own business.
And we holiday together
and you
as
holiday
well.
together. And Brad, you've got a passion for cars. So you do some car racing, I think, or did do some car racing?
Did do lots, yeah. I did about 15 years worth of racing. Again, it stemmed from having a road car and wanting to do more. Joined a car club and doing club track days was where it sort of very first began. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. And at the time, that car was my everything car. It was my work car. It was my Sunday car. It was my show car. I thought, well, if something happens on the track, I've got nothing. And then through a best mate, got introduced to a guy that builds race cars. And then we sort of started doing more and more, and we did some state level stuff, right up to the point where I did a Bathurst 12-hour race, which is a pretty significant event. So that was a big bucket list item for me.
And what sort of car were you driving?
It was a production based Ford GT. In its own right, it was a quick car, but it was at a point where that particular race was exploding in international drivers and cars. So we got second in class, which was a massive achievement. I did some endurance racing for the next few years, but then the business was just getting more and more and more, and I needed more and more budgets. So it sort of became I need to look at my priorities and put all my time and effort into the business and grow it. And I guess we're still doing that, but in a more efficient way rather than trying to grow it.
Do you do any racing these days?
Not as such. I now prefer to go and support others. So we've got some clients that race. So when they're racing in Victoria, I'll go and spend the weekend with them. I've still got some mates from the car club that I love catching up with, and just going and sitting in a pit lane and just getting the smells, and the atmosphere is just what I love now.
Fantastic.
So, Tania, if you're going to describe your current business, which is Car Detailing Geelong, is it the official name, or
we're actually just about to rebrand, or we're splitting the business, to be honest. So we still have the Car Detailing Geelong, and we have now started up or moved into what the new business is Studio Protect, and that was driven by COVID and also high client demand for film protection and ceramic coating. So
okay, let's elaborate on that between the two of you, because there are lots of car detailing businesses, and as you know, there's franchises all over the place. And you've been able to find a way to separate yourself from the pack and really get into the high end of car detailing and car preparation. And you deal in high end vehicles, which is obvious, and there's great demand for your business. And from what Mark tells me, is that in fact you've got too much business at times. So what was the first, I guess, idea and the starting point that got you into this car detailing preparation type business?
It stemmed from back in the car club days, and a mate owned the Victorian franchise, which we bought into. So it was a perfect stepping stone. We found we were too restrained in what we could do and what we could offer, and we were effectively running it as our own business, minus the franchise side of things. So it got to a point where we wanted to make it more personal, and we then got out of the franchise and took a big leap of faith and thought, we're going to have a crack at this ourselves. So we effectively were a home-based mobile business. So we would go to other people's houses, which was just the basic wash and vacs. And then we would need to work on cars for more than a day. So we would be, spending a couple of days at people's houses. We would then also, they may not have a garage, so we would bring the cars to our house. And we were getting busier and busier. And these ceramic coatings were just, getting more known. So we were doing more of that work, but it got to a point where I guess we didn't want to upset our neighbours with noise. which was probably the main factor. And plus, we just needed more space. That was probably the other driving force. So we started looking around for some sheds, some other options, and so forth. And we through a then client of ours, we then started to rent a small space, which we knew was too small, but it was like a stepping stone to see if will it work. And within probably 3 months, it was like, oh, we've sort of hit a pretty good spot here. And I guess the trust and reputation grew faster than what we could handle, and then we needed more space. So
we also had a separate part to the business of that as well, where we were offering for all our corporate clients, fleet clients as well. And we knew that to gain the bigger work, we decided to step up, and we offered that we would come on site for their inductions if they needed our staff to do so, or for us to do so. We also then looked at our insurances and our premiums to ensure that we were covered for what they required as well. So we were the perfect fit for a lot of corporates, because we could arrive on site, they could hand over all the keys that needed to be cleaned on those cars. We ticked all of their boxes in regards to business efficiency, and it outgrew itself really quickly. So while we were then in this new workshop, we realised we needed a staff member to come on board and take on the mobile or the fleet cleaning. So that grew quite quickly and rapidly for us as well. So we then had a business that was almost in two parts.
Well, you made an important point there, because a lot of the small businesses I come across, we talk about systems and processes, and they're lacking. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the biggest issues I find. Mm. So what have you done to get really robust? You mentioned that you're dealing with corporates. So what have you done to get really robust systems and processes in place within your business?
We also looked at what we would be doing with regards to some sites required working with children's checklists, I always get this wrong, the work safe management system sheets. So we actually engage with someone to help us write those. It's always good, I feel, to outsource where you don't have a strength. So we employed someone to help us work with those, so that we knew that we were doing as much as we possibly could to protect our business, but also gain our clients' confidence in our work.
So you've now split the business.
Yes.
So the new business is called?
Studio Protect.
Studio Protect. And how did the name come about?
In the studio itself, we have 2 working bays, and I was always calling them, well, we'll park the car in Studio 1 or Studio 2. So it was kind of a bit of a play on that to start with. We then realised that although Studio 2 sounds kind of quick and catchy, it didn't explain enough for what the actual name was. And I always struggle to look at businesses sometimes and go, yes, but what do you do? That's a nice name. So by putting Protect in it, at least gave it a little bit more for the understanding that we protect the vehicles that we're looking after with regards to the paint protection film, ceramic coatings.
And the premises here that we're meeting today is absolutely immaculate. So the when you walk out into the area where you do the Protect work, it's absolutely immaculate. And I think that's obviously part of it, in that you want to make sure there's no dust, there's nothing there that's going to hit or upset the process.
Correct.
So Brad, tell us about the ceramic coating process. Why should a car be done that way? What's the reason you would do it?
Think of it as being out in the sun all day and what it does to your skin. That's probably a really general way of explaining it. And the same thing with cars is, if a car's going to be outside in the sun all day, it's going to get damaged by the UV. So even though cars of today have got very complex paint systems, clear coats, we can still add another sacrificial layer to that car to protect it long term. But it's also, it makes the car so much more easier to look after and maintain. The actual ceramic coating is probably about 25% of the process. The 75% is all about prepping that surface to make it as best condition possible. So the smoother it is, the cleaner it is, the better that the ceramic coatings are going to work. So you can put the world's so-called best ceramic coating on with no prep, and it's going to fail straight away. So that's where we pride ourselves, is the preparation side of things to make it even more effective.
And does it matter on the age of the car? Does it have to be a new car, or can you do old cars? Or?
We can do any car.
So that leads to then, what's the worst car that's ever come in here in terms of state that's gone out with the owner going, I can't believe?
Probably about 4 or 5 months ago, we did a 25-year-old Range Rover.
Oh, wow.
And it had a lot of sentimental value to the owner. The wife and kids were just get rid of it. It's a nothing car. It was faded. It was heavily scratched. But at its time, it was the top end of a Range Rover. And the paint was extremely thin. And I gave him some sort of realistic expectations to say, look, we're going to improve it. I can't sort of say how much, but it's going to be improved. By the end of the process, if you stood a metre back, you'd think it was a brand new car.
Wow.
It blew me away. When the owners came to pick up their car, they walked from our office into the studio, and all three of them just teared up.
That's fantastic.
And it gives you that warm and fuzzy feeling that like you've made a big difference in someone. To a lot of people, like their car is their everything. And whether it's a Range Rover, whether it's a Hyundai, whether it's a Ferrari, to us, the badge doesn't mean any difference. Every car gets the same attention and skill that goes into that car. So for most people, that Range Rover is just, that's just a dirty looking scratch car. But the difference that we made to them was, it was more than that. It was you've just changed everything about what we thought the car was and what could be done to it. So, these guys left, and I had to sit down and think, what have I just done? Like these guys were crying.
That's cool.
I've never met them, but the wife hugged me and just it felt like you just had this amazing connection with them.
Brad, my experience
That's
with cars and paints, having been in the smash repair industry, for want of another word, for a couple of years, is that when a new car comes out of the factory, it's really got the minimum amount of paint possible.
Yep.
Because it's all done by robots, and it's all done down to the millimetre of thickness that they get to.
Yep.
So, should a car owner of a valuable car or a car that's cost them a fair bit of money, in your recommendation, should that person come and see someone like you and actually put that extra coat on, because that's going to give you longevity on the finish? It's going to improve the finish, and they're going to be a lot happier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It doesn't matter what brand of car it is, we can improve the condition of that paintwork. We can make it look glossier. Every car, whether it's a Bentley or a Barina, when it comes off that showroom floor, we can enhance it even more. We can get more clarity into the paint. We can get a lot more gloss into the paint. We can make it smoother. And then that's where we can then put the protections on to lock all that goodness in. Whether it's a ceramic coating, which will make it much easier to maintain, or whether we look at the paint protection film, which is a reasonably newish product to the market, that gives physical protection. So the ceramic coating is all about making it much easier to look after long term. The paint protection film, or PPF, is designed to do exactly what the ceramic coatings do, but give you a physical protection against stone chips and scratching, whether it's a forward drive going out bush bashing, whether it's your brand new Ferrari that you don't want to damage, you want to keep the originality. That's probably where the film comes into it, is with the high-end market. If it's found that there's a panel that's been repainted, you could wipe $100,000 off that value instantly if someone knows that. Whereas if they lock the originality of that paint in with the film, 5 years, 10 years down the track, if you want to pull that film off, you've still got your original condition paint underneath.
So it's a great investment in
Absolutely.
conditioning your car. Now, let's get back to husband and wife working together. So what advice have you got for those listening to us who are in partnership and working together, and you can't escape it. It's a 7-day a week. You had many Barneys?
Yes, we have. And in fact, when we first sort of started working together, we struggled to look for some mentors that had actually been in that same role. There's lots in Geelong. We know of husband and wife teams very successful. And we wish there'd been an opportunity to perhaps link in with them. So if that's somewhere down the track, we'd be quite happy to link in with people if they're starting out, to give some hints and tips as well. The one Barney that I probably tell quite often is one particular night getting ready to get to bed. I'm brushing my teeth. Brad walks into the bathroom and says, "Oh, by the way, what happened to that client?" Da, 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 da. And I put the toothbrush up in the air and I said, "Where would you like it?" Because I honestly was at a point where I'd finished for the day, but Brad hadn't, obviously. So we made a rule that once we stepped over the threshold of the carpet into the bedroom, there was to be no business talk. We do still struggle at times, and our children have felt the pain of business where they've walked out of a night time to ask a homework question and seen us both buried into our laptops trying to get some quotes done or emails written to, and they're, I can't ask them because they're busy. But what we have made a commitment to is dedicating time now to try and have family time weekly. So we've set our boundaries, and a great piece of advice a business mentor gave to us, Mark, was we need to look at having time off, time for holidays, and also time apart. So there are times where Brad will have a weekend by himself away. I'll have time off without the family as well, and it gives us a chance to refresh and refocus. And we found those things in particular were really good. And I also set boundaries within work timeframes too. So I'm here at a certain time and I do finish here, and try not to carry too much work at home.
Yeah, that's good. If you go back and listen to one of our previous podcasts with Michelle Hegney, Michelle and her husband and the 3 kids packed up and the caravan around Australia for 3 months in the middle of the year. Kids were in primary school, a great time to do it. And I remember when we first discussed that with them, the comment was, well, no, we could never do that.
Yeah.
Could never get away from the business. So that is a valuable lesson, and I look forward to hearing about your trip around Australia, if that's the case.
So where's the business heading now? What's your plans? You've got a few employees. You're splitting it, so you've got the car detailing and then the protective coating and the ceramic work.
Yes.
So where do you see the business in? If I walk in here one day in 5 years' time, what are we going to see? Or will we be on this site is the question.
I think it's all about efficiency from here on in. I think we've got the foundations we've got. I think it's all about now just making it or being smarter about how we work rather than work more, which is what I've been doing. It's trying to find the balance better, talking with people more about how to do that, rather than just get more work in to build a business. I think we've done the hard yards, and now it's all about how can we do this better,
smarter.
But being smarter about what we're doing. I've always just been a hands-on. I'll just work more. I'll just work harder to do more. But especially in the last 12 months, I've found out that that's not the smartest thing to do. So it's all about maybe getting some people in with certain skills that we can develop or personalise even more, and even to a point of me maybe stepping back half a step rather than doing lots of hours. I can sort of pull that back and be a bit more supervising while still being hands-on.
Fantastic. And the other question I was going to ask, and this is a leading question, so I'm not sure where the answer will go, but I might guess. Advice, is getting good advice and bouncing ideas off people. You and I met through the Geelong Chamber mentoring service, I think.
Yes.
Is that important or not important or part of your journey? How do you see that?
I feel it's really important. you're investing time into your business in lots of other ways. To take on someone who has advice, who is a step back and potentially can see some solutions to problems is invaluable advice. I think the next part, though, is you need to act on that advice. You can listen to it and then continue on, which a lot of us are very capable of doing, but to then actually say, no, I'm going to take that on board and how can I implement it so that it can work better for solving the problem is probably my biggest advice, is to act on what has been suggested for you. We've got to that point so often that just recently we gave you a call, Mark, because both Brad and I individually said, I think we need to have a chat with Mark. So we know the value in that. So definitely that would be.
All right, my final question is, I've given you a magic wand.
Mm-hmm.
There are no restrictions. Money's no object. You can do whatever you want. What's the first thing you would do within your business if you had no restrictions? Deadly silence.
I know what I would do, but it's more, I think, from the operational point of view, from where Brad would go.
Oh, well, what would you do?
What would I do? I would probably look at buying the site. We're currently renting. Buying the site and redeveloping how we've done the layout. We've grown it. So when we first moved in, we felt X was the right position for things. So now we would look at remodelling it to be a bit more of a smarter operation for us. I wouldn't grow it in size, though. A lot of people say, oh, you need a bigger premises, you need more staff. I still feel that we wouldn't be able to offer the personalised high quality that we do. I feel that we would lose touch if we weren't involved in it. And so for me, that's my magic wand wish.
Yeah, my advice there is if you focus on growing the business all the time, you'll end up self-destructing.
Yeah.
That's what I see all the time. Brad, I've given you a magic wand.
Well,
what's the first thing you do?
That was what I was thinking, but it was how I was going to say it.
Yes.
So, I even when we did the rebrand, I had a thought of just gutting the place and starting again. But it's a very costly experience. So it's more about having a better layout of our space to be able to do our job more efficiently.
Well, the important thing there is you've got a vision of what it maybe will look like in the future.
So, Tania, Brad, thank you.
You're welcome.
And you've been our most recent victims, and everybody says, oh, no, we can't do a podcast, but it's not been that painful, has it?
Not at all.
And we've got to learn a little bit more about you. So thank you very much for your time. Wish you all success for the new branding, and I think the one thing that sums up the way you guys operate is your fantastic customer service. You are so focused on your customer that a lot of businesses could learn from you. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Guys.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast, brought to you by Barwon Southwest Mentors. If you'd like to know more about how we can help your business, look at smeadvisory.com.au for contact details.